So fun to watch your screen fill up with all the people that come in.
Yeah, I've never done this, so this will be fun.
Oh, you've never done this before on Zoom?
Not with this many people.
Some have their videos on and stuff. They should all be coming in on mute, which I think they are. Otherwise, it's a little noisy. But welcome, everybody. We're so glad you're here. Go ahead and put in the chat where you're from. And we have a good combination. I see some wonderful members of the photo managers and those of you that are new and not familiar with us and here to learn as well. So we're really glad you're here. We are recording this so that if you miss anything, we'll make sure that you get it to you. And you can also, if you have questions, go ahead and start putting those in the chat and we'll take them at the end. But also, I think we have a few people in there that might be able to answer these questions as they come in as well. So again, welcome everybody. So Fabi Morris is here. We're really excited to have her join us from Houston. And Fabi, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got interested in becoming a photo manager and how long you've been a member. And then we'll jump into some more specifics. She has a very fascinating story, I feel like, and is going to be a great person to be learning from today. So go ahead, Fabi, take it from here.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to talk. I wasn't any different from the new people, that may be listening a few years ago. So this is a journey that anybody could go on. But I'm a Navy veteran. I joined the Navy in 1998. I was in the Navy for 8.5 years. And one of my early Navy memories, I was still a teenager, is I got connected with a creative memories consultant on the island of Guam. So as a teenager on Guam, I started scrapbooking. And I guess that's where my journey began. I loved the photos and the stories and combining those things. And then, got out of the Navy. And one thing about my personality is that I have this massive entrepreneurial itch. I'm always looking to do something. Ever since I was little, I was always trying to sell something or just be in business. So that kind of led me on my journey. After the Navy, we got out my husband was also Navy. When we got out in 2007, of course, I was like, okay, what business am I going to do? So we ended up opening a business in 2008. It was actually a franchise. It was a women's gym. And I didn't know all the stuff that I didn't know. And we ended up going under after 3 years. So I say that was a very stressful, but a very beneficial experience because failure teaches you a lot of things. So, I had a failed business under my belt. And then I kind of went back to, just trying to lay low. But it wasn't long before I started researching again, other things that I could do. And I learned about this association. I didn't join right away. I was kind of checking it out and just spinning my wheels of what I could do. And I knew that I had to do something profitable at that point because I had, with the gym, we had it for 3 years, but only one of those years was profitable. So for 2 years, I went to work every day and I didn't make any money. So I already knew what that felt like. And I knew I did not want to do that again. So when I came into this, I knew I needed to get the right resources, the right tools. And I found out about the association. And so that was in 2016 when I joined. So it's been about 4.5 years that I've been a member. And that's kind of how I got there. It was just an idea that I had, and I found the association and was so excited that somebody could train me to do this idea that I had. And that's where it all started.
That's a great, that's amazing, your story. And it's interesting. The reason why I love, the story of trying, first of all, that you have that entrepreneurial spirit, right? And that you wanted to own your own business. And then the fact that you did that and you still did it, even if you didn't feel like you succeeded the first time, but you learned.
Yes, it was a great learning experience because there's so much things you don't know. And that's what you need to know when you go into a business is you have to be aware of what you don't know to always be eager to learn and find more knowledge.
And that's what it's funny. So I'm going to ask you to tell the story. So I'm the founder. I don't know if I introduced Kathy Nelson. I'm the founder of the Photo Managers. And one of the things, we have a certification program in place that you'll notice if you are not a member and you've gone to our website and things. And one of my favorite parts of certification is it's really, there we go. It's really an opportunity to raise the level of credibility and experience among our membership community, teach best practices. And then you actually have to complete a project. And through that project, you're documenting it. And then we check your references and eventually you have an interview with us. So now Fabi's been a member since 2016. So when I interviewed her, and my favorite part is I do an interview, a final interview. When her name came across, I thought, she's not certified yet. Like, how is that possible? And then in interviewing her and learning about her first project, which literally was a 4-year project, right? 4 years or 3 years?
It's been 2.5 years. It felt like 4 years.
2.5 years. Throughout, as she told me that story, and I'm going to have her tell you that, what I loved about what Fabi kept saying is then I took like a deep breath and I learned what I needed to do. And then I learned what I needed to do. And I thought the reason I really wanted her on this call is because she is, exemplifies what it really means to start a business and the idea that you don't come in knowing everything. So go ahead and tell us the story about that client that ended up being a 2.5-year project.
Yeah, so that client was a direct result of me being in this association. That's how I was found. I was very green. I had only done like a few small clients. I was just, there was so much I didn't know. And there was a personal historian that was working with this person that's now my client. And she had been one of the charter members for the association, but she had since left and gone back to pro bono law, and she needed somebody to pass the project off to. So she went on the website, the association website, and found my name and connected with me. And at first, it's kind of funny, I thought it was a hoax email because she emailed me and she said, it just sounded so good. She's like, I have this huge project and I need you to take it over and can we meet? And I was like, oh, okay. And I think I put out a message on the forum, like, has anybody gotten an email like this? So it kind of started out funny, but we connected and it was all because of the association. I mean, I would not have this job without being part of this group. So I'm really thankful for that. But yes, it was a huge learning curve for basically 2 years of just learning. Let's see, I took some notes.
Okay, yeah, you took some notes because I know it is.
Okay, what was your question? What were you going to say? Because I can go in so many directions with this question.
Okay, good.
You're going to ask me something specific?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, in terms of the project itself, what was the scope of the project? What was it that you were tasked to do? And
this project was at this client's office in Houston. And so he had a floor, where his business was being run. And he was using this room as his book room. And it had about 12 shelves of things, of just pictures, him and his wife's family pictures. And he had also gotten into genealogy. And he had done about 40 years of research. And at that time, there was a webinar that you had brought on a genealogist. You had done like part 1 and part 2. And I remember listening to that. And that really helped me because she said a lot of people do all this research, but then they don't know how to put it all together. And that's where this client was. Not only did he have all this family history, he had pictures and it was just a massive amount of stuff. I actually tried to bring Laura Woolsey in on the project, but it didn't work out because he just wanted me to do it locally and not bring outside people in. But it was so massive that I was like, I need help. And so he said, no, you can figure this out. Basically, is what he told me. So he put a lot of trust in me, and he gave me the rein. He's like, just use your best judgment and do the work. And so it was a good way for me to approach it, because if he had micromanaged me, I think it would have been harder for me because I was trying to figure so much things out. So then my learning began. I just started devouring all the resources that I could, going down all the the rabbit trails that I needed to go on to figure out what to do. And I went to Metadata Camp. I went to Roots Tech. I did the conference. I might have done the virtual conference that year, like buying the online, but I went to several conferences. We invested heavily in training and resources. And I will say that the reason we were able to do that is because we priced ourselves properly coming in. I didn't do any discounting when I brought this client on. I had a set rate, and that was my rate the whole way through. And also when we started bringing on employees, I also billed for their rate the same as my rate. Like I didn't, and I had that advice came to me from a SCORE counselor, which was free advice. I went to the SCORE office in Houston. It's just a free thing run by the government. The SBA, the Small Business Administration, offers this program called SCORE. And so I actually went in and talked to a SCORE counselor and said, how do I approach this? I need help I have to bring on some junior employees. Can I bill at the same rate I'm billing myself at? He goes, sure. And so that was kind of like my stepping stone there. I was seeking knowledge, and, there's some free knowledge, and then there's going to be stuff you got to pay for. But no, the SBA is a great place because you can get a mentor for free, and, you can get more than one.
Yeah,
So,
we always recommend, just a good point, for those of you who are new to business, I started this business also by working with a SCORE mentor, the Small Business Association. You can go in your local community and look up your local SCORE. Sometimes you can it can be a hit or miss a little bit. I'm in Hartford, Connecticut. I ended up using somebody in a bigger community down near on the New York, Connecticut border in Stamford. I ended up with a really good SCORE business counselor, but they can be a great resource.
They can, and you can switch too. If one doesn't work out, you can go to another one. But at the very least, you're going to get some very basic business setup that would be generic to anybody setting up a business. There's things that you got to do and you got to know. And so that was really good for me. And that allowed us to really bring in the right amount of income to cover all our training. Every time we flew to a conference, all that was all covered by the income we were generating from this huge project. So that was really important, that it had to be, and I know, this is not a typical thing, but what I'm saying that to get people set up for the mindset that go in with the mindset that you want to be profitable, and not that you're just kind of going to try this out, but, set yourself up. You might not be profitable right away, but set your goals to where you can be, eventually.
Right. And that's a great, Fabi, that's something that we're really doing a lot of training. Even this year, we're actually offering a 3 different times this year with a money mindset coach as part of the benefit of membership, 3-hour workshops, where just knowing, that's the biggest question people always ask when they first start. How do I know how much to charge? And there's this myth, some reason that you're supposed to undercharge, that because you're working with family photos and memories, it should cost less than what a different services would. Actually, it's priceless. I'm sure this client, right? I think, and you were fortunate, and it is unusual in the sense that he also gave you that feedback, right? That it's okay he knew the value of what you were doing.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about just a few pieces of what was I'm sure it was scanning, right? You probably had to organize all the material, then you had to digitize it, right? And then once you digitized it, you probably had to create a digital file way for him to be able to access all that. Is that correct?
Right. So the first 2 weeks, all I did was inventory everything. I went item by item, and I just tried to figure out what's in the room, because he didn't really give me like a tour. He just put me in the room and said, here. And I love puzzles, so it was great. So, the first thing I did was just inventory everything. And then, yes, we moved into getting it organized for scanning. And that took a long time. There was a lot of learning curves.
Don't your kids do some scanning now? So not only is Gabby, she has how many kids? Tell us about your family.
Yeah, we have 5 kids. And at that point, no, my kids were not helping at that point, because there was just too much I was figuring out. We brought in some college students that help us, because this job was mostly done in downtown Houston until we got everything digitized. Now that we're still wrapping it up, in the sense that we're finalizing the books, we made a 3-volume set of the family history, which, again, there was, at first I had no idea how I would do that, but I learned along the way. At Roots Tech, I met somebody who specializes in family history books, and that was another piece of the puzzle that came together at the right time. But a lot of things came together at the right time. After we digitized everything, then we started working on how to create the books, because there was so much rich family history. There was 10 volumes of just World War II history that his father had left behind. So that became one of the volumes that we did. And that also, I got resources from different places to figure out how to put that together. I watched Janet Blunt's course on, book design. I didn't ultimately design the books, but it gave me the elements I needed to, streamline the process. But I did have a graphic designer that did the final design of the books, and we're just at the tail end of that. So yeah, it involved just figuring out what's in there, organizing it all, understanding the family. I think that was probably one of the greatest values I brought, is that I synthesized all this stuff that he didn't know what to do with. So I got a really good understanding of the whole family collection, all the family lines. And, you know, he could come in and ask me questions, and I was able to just tell him things that he didn't even know how to decipher. Like, oh yeah, this, you know, this person goes with this person. And we did all that just from being there and going through everything and putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Sure. I know that's the one thing that so many people ask when you tell people you organize somebody else's, like, how could you do that? How do you know who everybody is? But it's always so funny. It's not near as hard as people tend to think, right?
You figure it
Once
out.
get
You
to
start
the family-
seeing common things. Yeah. You know, the names keep popping up and you see the common themes. And I think most people that come into this like puzzles because, you know, if we're doing something like this, it means we like figuring things out. So that was, you know, and even till today, he can ask me things and, or where can I find this? And, you know, so.
Now, here's a question for you. Knowing what you know today, so here we are telling the story about that big project. And again, that was an unusual situation. Not
It
everybody
was,
did
it was.
You know that. We'll talk a little bit about your current business model, but what would you do differently? Anything different that you would do that you learned from this process, or with your newest clients? I know you just told me on our interview that you just got a pretty good size. You were worried, like, would I get another client, right? Was this like
Right.
the moment where I made all this money and then, oh, now what?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
So would I change anything? I think the way I went into it was great. I set up my pricing and that was very consistent throughout. So that was good. But since I was still new, I didn't, I feel like I didn't document well what was going on because I was spending so much time figuring things out. I kind of got in the weeds, and I have this little story that's a good analogy. I ran this garage sale fundraiser years ago for a child in our church that needed some money for his medical expenses. And at the garage sale, it was a huge turnout. We had a ton of items and a ton of volunteers, and I was running around helping them set everything up. And then the man that let us use his house came up to me and said, "Where's your clipboard? Why aren't you walking around directing people and you know, like being the boss basically?" And that story is a great story to tell you, to help you understand what I was going through with this project, because I was too busy like just getting the work done, but I didn't have my CEO hat on as much as I should have. I should have been analyzing and doing just numbers and how much did we get done this week. Whereas I was just trying to get it done because it was so much and it was so overwhelming. And I think that's really dangerous. So in the end, it worked out okay because this client was so hands off, but that's not a good way to do things because you always want to have updates and reports to be able to show. Even if the client doesn't want to see them, you need them for yourself because you have to understand what's going well, what's not going well. And you can only do that if you're documenting. So it seems counterintuitive to stop and document, but it's so valuable and I've gotten much better at it and it's just really good. You need that. So that's what I would do differently. I would document better.
You know, and those of you that are listening that are thinking about becoming a photo manager or doing your own family project right now, that's something you want to be putting on the hat of if you're working on your own family project, either you're scanning or digital photo organizing, whatever you're doing, document your processes because that's how you're going to know how long something takes. Once you set your hourly rate, you're going to have a better idea of the process. So think of yourself as also the doing that work. So we recommend that a lot. I think, again, like you're saying, Fabi, people tend not to realize the value of the fact of really understanding. And then you'll find new processes in easier ways to get work done because
right.
When you first start, you might be doing it the longest way possible, and there are shortcuts. And that's where there's a lot of support from the community itself as people who've been ahead of you and figured this stuff out, right? So.
Yeah. And, like I said at the beginning of this call, like the only difference between me and someone else is just time. I mean, I feel like this is a business that has proven to be viable, and not only viable, but really profitable. If you just, you learn the stuff and you figure out your groove, we're all going to do things a little differently. And something I wrote down to tell people that might be starting out or thinking about it is that I kind of made the mistake of trying to fit in a particular mold. If I saw somebody doing something a certain way, I would want to do it exactly like them. And then I'd be inspired by somebody else. And then I would pivot and try to do it like them. And then because there's so many inspiring people in the group. And so then I was like, I got tired of that because I realized I kept pivoting. And so you have to really look at your own strengths and talents and how you want to do things and how it fits in like your version of it, you know? And so that is one thing I really learned. Just take a deep breath, see where you're at, and see how you can apply what you have, the resources that you have to move forward with your idea.
That's great. So just back on that, your most current project. So were you concerned that, you know, oh, I had this big project and what's next, right? And what's the most recent project you?
Oh, right. So right after Profitability Live, which I just did, you know, we got a call, or not a call, a lead on our website is how usually we get our new clients. We don't do much marketing. It's just whoever finds us. So yeah, I called her back, talked on the phone, and she just had a huge, she wanted to do her mom's photo collection. It was a gift to her mom. And so talked to her on the phone, you know, gave her our rate, and then went to do the discovery session, got her all her stuff, brought it back to our studio, and I got half the deposit up front. You know, I said, this is what the estimate is, and I need half up front. And she was fine with that. So
I've had a number. So for those who don't know, Profitability Live was in November. We did a 3-day workshop on how to really understand your value and price yourself. And we interviewed experienced members. They did case studies. And one of the big things that came out was this idea of collecting the deposit up front. And a number of people have been reporting that they hadn't been doing that. And now they're doing that. And everybody says yes, and how surprised they've been. But that's been a really smart business move, right?
Yes, it is, because, like, you know, I guess having the failure behind me has really motivated me too, because I don't want to do that again, you know? And so for me, it's like, it's either it's going to work or I'm not going to do it. It's either going to be really profitable or I'm not going to do it at all, because it's, you know, or else I'd just be spinning my wheels. So I think that is a great, and there's people out there who will gladly do that when they really see the value that you're bringing them. They're just so excited, and they're happy to make the investment.
All right, so I'm going to ask like a couple more questions, then we'll leave time for sure for Q&A, because I'm sure there's lots of questions. What do you love most about what you do?
Just delighting people, you know, and just getting that burden off of them and helping them enjoy their memories. Remembering is so important, and we're helping people remember. Yeah. I love that. The remember has become a big word for me in this business. It's all, you know, it's all about remembering.
People need to remember. And, you know, certainly, I wish I should have written it down, but there was a great quote I read Sunday about the value. Again, I always try to talk about this in terms of the value of telling a story, right? But it's the idea that we're, as human beings, we need meaning in our lives. We need to have a purpose, a reason. And our photos are part of that, right? It's that history. It's that remembering that, yes, I'm part of something that came before me, and something hopefully will go ahead of me, all, including the good, bad. And, you know, it's not all roses and things like that. And that's a significant part, right, of what we process.
Yeah, it helps to shape people's journeys forward if they can remember well. Like you said, the good, the bad, it really helps to solidify where you are now. And I love that we can do that for people. And
what is it that you like least, though? What don't you like? Because, you know, because jobs, you know, your own company, your own business, there's things you love and there's things that you don't.
Actually, least like digital photo organizing, because I just hit a lot of bumps. It's so multifaceted. Everyone's doing something different, and if there's no cookie cutter approach to it, you know, you got Apple and Android and all this stuff, and I like to tell the stories. That's my heart. I just want to look at the pictures, organize them, and tell the stories. So
yep, the digital is complex. The good news is, in our community, one thing we love to say is do what you love and outsource the rest. So the idea of that is you don't have to do all of that. If there are people that love digital photo organizing, right? And I don't know if you do it yourself or if you've outsourced any of that, but that is something to keep in mind, that you're the project manager, right? You're walking around with a clipboard, but you don't have to do every single piece of a project.
Yeah, you can hire people to do the stuff that you don't prefer. So,
and let's see. Okay, I think we kind of covered a lot. Let's go to the questions and see. Let's see if Kate, do you want to come on and read out?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Go ahead and read out the questions.
Yeah, sure. So the first question, just Kathy, is kind of to you. Jill, who's also in Connecticut, was wondering who you contacted for that. I don't know if it was SCORE or the business advice.
She's in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So I went to the Stanford. I did the West Hartford, Connecticut SCORE, and it just wasn't a good fit. These old really like curmudgeon-y older guys were like, photos, people, nobody's gonna, I mean, they were just so negative. I hit a lot, I'd started this 11 years ago for those, and so I hit a lot of roadblocks like that from people, and I just kept thinking, no, I'm not gonna believe that. So I ended up going to a small business association in Stamford, Connecticut, and ended up with a good advisor. And he just really helped me. He just believed in my, sometimes it's just somebody who says, yes, I think you have a good idea. And then he gave me good advice.
Perfect. So Jill, hope that helps you. All right, so let's get on to questions for Fabi. So somebody asked about how you charge kind of per photo or hourly or in packages. And certainly there's, as we know, lots of ways to approach the pricing, but maybe you could just talk about that high level.
Yeah. So we charge in half-day sessions. So we're not going to go out to see you unless you're willing to pay us for a half day, basically. And so most of our work is that way. And then after that, we just charge a per scan price, no matter what the size is.
On top of your half-day
very
session.
simple. Yeah. For organizing, we charge by the half day. And then if we're scanning, then it's just the scanning rate for that.
All right.
So it's pretty simple. It's just those two things.
That's smart. Yeah. So you keep it really easy for the client too. It's not.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about how do you estimate the amount of work for a project, especially that first one that was so big? And I think you talked about spending the first couple of weeks actually just doing an inventory, right? And figuring out what you were trying to get your arms around it, I guess.
I'm definitely not a pro yet at estimating, but we talked a lot about this at Profitability Live. So that actually helped me. The stuff I learned at Profitability Live helped me estimate this project that we're doing right now, the one that I told you that I got the half up front. And so I was just doing some math. I think, you know that a shoebox is about 1,000 photos. And so I just ballparked it basically just when I brought it home. I didn't give him the estimate until I brought it home and we inventoried it. So I did not give an estimate on site when I picked it up. She knew about what it was going to cost her because I told her, here's our scan rate and here's how much is in one shoebox. So she looked at her own collection and goes, okay, all right, come on out. You know, I mean, she could do the math herself too.
Right.
So
right.
This is a very rough estimate.
And that's important. We really have recommended, I think through, like I said, Profitability Lab, it's very difficult in some client to give an estimate off the cuff without doing that inventory. It's just because people way underestimate usually the number of photos they have. They'll say, oh, I have a few thousand. Like they don't realize 1,000 photos is in a shoebox, but these are kind of numbers we can help you with, or how many photos in an inch, right? It's like 200. I forget now if it's 200 or 300, but photos in an inch. I mean, there's little things like that. And the average person has 5,000 to 6,000 printed photos in their collection, I think is the average. Other experts on here now that have been doing it longer than I have could tell you what the average client has. They all think they have less than they really do.
Yeah, I think a good thing to say is just that it's going to be at least this many sessions and this is probably this many photos. And then with the way this worked out, the reason I didn't get her deposit when I was on site with her is because her mom was there and it was a gift for her mom. So I said, I'm going to email you because it would be awkward for me to like talk to her about numbers in front of her mom. So the next time I do that, I may talk to them about it right there, but I feel comfortable emailing them also after I've taken a really good look at it. But they have to at least have a ballpark if they've done the math, you know, like, hey, this is how many shoe boxes are here. And so.
Great. Okay. How did you organize yourself? Someone's wondering kind of, especially for scanning, kind of, are there some tools you use or apps you use to kind of organize things?
I watched the Easy Index course that Adam and Laura did.
For those of you you can find these courses she's talking about on the Photo Organizers Academy. If you go to our website and go to learn, it'll take you over there. But and Laura's on this call, they have a great method that they,
yes. Now that method didn't work so well with the big job because it was just so much stuff and I was still learning and that course wasn't out yet. But Laura had talked about the method before that. Yeah, but the easy indexing for printed photos is definitely an awesome way to go.
Great. Someone says, I see from your website that you collect photos from people and you don't get them to send them to you. So do you only work locally?
So far, yes.
Gotcha. Let's see. I have an uncle who has a room full of family history. He was the family genealogist. I want to inventory it, but I haven't come up with a good way to approach my aunt and his family, their family, and I'm not sure how much I would charge either. So it's just someone's kind of comment. That is definitely can be a tricky situation with family for sure.
Well,
How,
if this is a person who needs a practice project, that might be a good practice project. And I mean, if they haven't shown an interest in paying for somebody to do it, it might be hard to get them to pay you. But it could be a great practice project.
that's right.
Something to think about. Yeah, that's a tricky one.
How soon into this did your business make money so that you could draw an income? Asks someone.
After the big project would be. Before that, we weren't profitable yet, which I think is typical for any business starting out. You're going to have to invest some money in and not be profitable for a while. But for us, it was about a year, maybe a little less than a year.
Nice. When you talk about your half-day sessions, do you mean a 4-hour minimum?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody asked, what medium do you use to share the final projects?
That is forthcoming, because with the big client, I'm having to work with what he needs. But with my current client, we haven't figured that out yet.
And it changes for it's different for every client, really.
Yeah, I like to tailor it it's really a boutique service in my opinion, where you kind of tailor it to the client and see what they're already using.
Their technology.
I'm looking.
Right. Yeah. How comfortable they are with technology, whether they can, whether a smoke gallery or whether.
Right. Definitely on an EHD. That's always part of the final delivery is an EHD.
An external hard drive.
Right, the external hard drive. From there, it just depends on what's going to work for the client. I don't want to deliver something that they're not going to be able to use just because I think it's really cool. So I really want to, I have a funny story about that with the big client. I decided to gift him with a digital photo frame, thinking that his kids would get on board and start emailing pictures to the frame and really, figure that out, but they didn't. So they kept emailing it to him, and then he would email them to me. And so,
that's not exactly how that was supposed to work.
So I think really learning about your client is really important to figure out what are they really going to enjoy, because that's what you want. You want them to get this collection and use it and enjoy it. And if your process that you've figured out is not their process, then you gotta make some changes.
That's right. Yeah. Somebody asked about Profitability Live, if it was recorded. And so I will just answer that. If you, it was, and it's now available for purchase in the Academy. So if you go to the photomanagers.com and go to the Learn tab, you can get to the Academy from there, and it is available right now. Someone asks, how do you communicate the value of your services to prospective clients?
I think that your pricing already communicates value, in my opinion. And I think sometimes if you price too low, it already undercuts your value. So I think that would be the first way. When I can say my pricing confidently, I think that's the first step in them saying, oh, this is a valuable service. I actually had an interaction with, before this, I had a digital client in the middle of the big project, and I kind of went back and forth on email with that client. It was a lawyer, and he was buying the digital organizing for his wife, and he got a little bit of sticker shock. And I didn't really try to acquiesce to him or try to smooth it out. This is it. This is what we charge. And then I waited. Sometimes you just gotta wait. They gotta think about it. And then he came back, and he's the one that said, I didn't even use this word. And he said, you know what? I understand. Let's go for it. You provide a very valuable service. And so I think that just being confident with your pricing already communicates a lot of value. If you value what you do, your client will get that energy from you.
Yeah, that's great advice. Amira updated us with the 100 photos per inch. Thank you, Amira, for that. The little tip for estimating there. Someone says, when you take an inventory and maybe as you continue to work on the project, do you kind of give them a new, better informed estimate after you've maybe delved into certain parts of it. So I guess, does that
Yeah.
change as the project goes on?
Right. Yeah. Your deposit would be your estimate of what, what I did was what I thought half was going to be. And so from there, yeah, you would definitely update if it changed. And I think that's where keeping good records and knowing your process so that you can see where you're going to end up, as you get closer to the end.
And keeping the client updated,
Right.
absolutely.
Keeping the client updated is really
And
important.
I'll just throw in there too. One of the things, and I think Kate, I think it was somebody said the difference between certified and non-certified. Our certification, the training in our certification is all about what we call best practices. And we've learned over the years, we rewrote certification as new as of it's been 1 year now, but what's really about client management is about how you document to the client in consistent communication. And actually, when you submit a finished project, you show us that how you documented that process from the initial estimate to the way you kept the client up to date until the final process. And the reason we put that in is really, it's for your best interest, right? We know that as an organization, as a newer profession, that creating best practices, strong credibility is critical for everybody's success. And so we know over the years, we've learned that these are the things that really make a difference. And so Fabi's kind of going along with that. And then as a member of the we were the association, now the photo managers, but that's part of the process of how we educate our members, how important that is.
Yeah.
Because it protects you. In the end, it's in your best interest and the client, so that nobody's confused. Because the worst feeling ever is, and I think anybody that's on this call that's been a member for a while and done this, is when that sticker shock, if you didn't tell them up front, all of that is a painful experience to experience, and you never want to do it again if you ever have that experience. So.
All right. Someone asked, Fabi, you mentioned learning to take notes as you're working on a project. What kind of notes do you think are important to take? It's kind of a good segue from what we were just talking about, documenting things.
I particularly take really detailed notes. I take notes about what I was thinking not just what I did, but what I was thinking, because I think a lot and sometimes I'll change what I was thinking. But if I write down where I was mentally and logistically, it helps me keep moving forward without getting crazy new ideas in the middle of what I was doing. So I document, exactly what I was doing when I was working on a project, like that day, what we got done. And, if I can put some numbers in there, I will, like, 1 shoebox worth of prints indexed or whatever. So yeah, that's my explanation of that. My thoughts and my actions.
Yeah, no, it's very important. I also think that keeping track of some timing too is important, especially as you start projects, like how long it took you to scan 500 photos or something, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. The time for sure. Yeah, forgot to say that.
Let's see, for those who are currently photo managers, so other people can chime in the chat too. On average, how many jobs do you take on per month, and how many hours on average do you think you work per client?
So we actually don't take on a whole lot of clients. That's just the way we came into it. Our business model is that we would just service, maybe less than 10 people a year, and service them really well. And so that kind of lends itself to really big projects. So right now, I wouldn't want to have more than 2 clients at a time, which is what we have right now. And then after that, I would just put people on a waiting list if they wanted to work with us. Did I answer both parts of the question?
Yeah, and I think that's certainly different. I mean, it differs for everybody. So that was a good answer for you. Absolutely. And
I think you asked about time. I don't work full time. We have 5 kids and we homeschool. So I work 10 to 20 hours a week. And then my husband also helps with the business. He's kind of like the scanning guy. He runs the camera scanning station. So that's helpful.
Yep. And that would be a good question to ask, perhaps on the Advice from the Pros Facebook page too. And you could get some perspective from other photo managers too. So, all right. So there's one here about any specials now for joining. Let's leave that to the end, Kathy.
Yes, I do. I'm going to share in a minute. I'll share
I figured you would. And then if you want to, we can also talk, Kathy, at the end about difference between certified membership and a regular membership. So back to Fabi, do you scan photos and make photo books? So,
Yes,
it seems
that's
like
always,
that's part of your,
yeah, that's a part of our service. I took Janet Blunt's course on, I forget what it's called, profitable albums, I think, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yep.
So I took that course, and also like with the huge books, with the family history, I outsourced the graphic design, but I assembled all the parts, and that's part of what I'll be talking about at conference is what that process looked like for me of getting everything ready for the graphic designer. I'm talking about that at conference because it was a lot of moving parts.
great. That'll be very useful information. Super. Are you willing to share your rates? And somebody was wanting to hear kind of what sticker shock meant to your clients. So feel free to either share them or just give a ballpark and talk high level, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay. Kathy, am I allowed to share rates on this
Yeah,
call?
if you're comfortable for the purpose of this call, I'm comfortable, but it's up to you. That's
okay. Yeah. So our half day rate is $425. And then, the sticker shock. So the sticker shock was I went into the discovery session and got the digital collection, but then I came back home and I assessed it and looked at what I was working with. And then I gave them an estimate of the total that it was going to cost them and requested the deposit. That's when he got the sticker shock. Because with digital photos, it's not as easy to give an estimate, right? They can't really assess what they think, how long it'll take. With scanned photos, it's a little easier. They can say, I have like 20 shoe boxes here. It's probably going to cost me this much. So with the digital photo organizing, I think I need to get a little better at setting expectations at the discovery session. That's part of what I still need to improve on. And I learned, some more about that at the Profitability Live. So, and even with that, when you email somebody, you always want to stay confident. I didn't apologize for anything. I just presented it and was very professional and just told him, just kept using positive wording just to encourage him that it was a great thing he was doing. And it took him, and sometimes people are busy. Don't think that if people don't email you back right away that they've changed their mind necessarily. It's just that they're busy. He's a lawyer. And so it took him a while to, I think I followed up with him after that and said, hey, you're ready to move forward. And then he emailed back and said, yes, because I think he was asking me for a discount without directly asking me, but I didn't offer a discount. And then that ended up being a really good client. We got the stuff back to them in early January and they were really happy.
Great. That's a good story. Do you have business insurance or specifically errors and omissions insurance?
I never heard of errors and omissions insurance, but we do have business insurance through State Farm.
Great. Let's see. Oh, somebody asked about the course on profitable albums, and that was in the academy. Photo books made profitable.
For some reason, I just looked in there to link it and it's not there, but we are making a change. We're moving our course platform over and maybe got lost in there, but we'll get it back up in there. It's with Janet Blunt and can't think of the title of it either off the top of my head, but there's only one on there. Just in the interest of time, we want to let's just take one more question because, obviously we could go on and I appreciate your time, Fabian, you've answered a lot of great questions, but just let's do one more, then I'll share the advantage of being a member and where you have access to people who can answer your questions all the time. And go ahead. Was there one more question there that?
There's like 26 more questions, I think. So,
yeah. Okay. So in that case,
there's a lot.
Thank you, everybody. So, I know this is, let me explain to you, let me show you something. So if you're asking all these questions, we do have, we are growing. The need for photo managers is exploding right now, right? There's no, and there's a learning curve, like Fabi said too, at the same time as well. So the photo managers, we want to welcome new members, and we have a special deal that if you join, let's see, I had my PowerPoint, in the month of January, you can, let's see, current slide. Wait a minute, sorry, play from current side. Okay, if you become a pro, choose either annual membership or with or without certification. So certification is it's 5 training modules that you go through, and then you have to, you go through, it could take a week to go through that training. It's really not, intense. It's actually the best practices. It's not going to actually teach you how to scan a photo or things like that, but we're going to do a big deep dive into all aspects of photo organizing. And then the next step is for you to get your first paid client, or second or third. It's not just your family and friends. And then you go through the process of completing that project, and you document it. You submit that, we review it. We actually get a reference check. You have an interview with me, and at that point you become certified, and we turn on you can now be found on our search directory on our website. And that can take anywhere from, some newer members get that project done in the first few months. Some people, like Fabi, I was surprised, but it could take, 2 years, 3 years. So that's the difference between those. This year, for January only, so every year we do an annual conference. Our conference, again, Fabi's speaking, it'll be in April, and either in person in Atlanta, or you can join us virtually. Either way, we're going to be bringing you an amazing conference. Last year, you have access to all of our conference breakouts, which is 14 different 90-minute classes. You can see them on the website, the list of the courses. It's normally $221 when you join between now and the end of the year. If you add New Year when you check out, you'll have access to all those classes. You have lifetime access to them. So we don't remove them at any point. Some of them might become outdated. I'm going to recommend right now, if you take advantage of this incentive, don't watch all of them at once, because you will feel completely overwhelmed. But there are some great ones about like remote digital photo organizing, or how to get started as a new member. So it's a great resource. This is a very generous offer. We don't usually do anything quite this generous, but we are excited for the new year. It's been a crazy time in the world, as we all know, with what's happening with COVID. People have lost jobs, and we know that there are people who will pay photo managers to do this work, and our members are experiencing a lot of success. We have an amazing community that will really support you. And then the last thing that we're doing is, I mentioned that we're doing that money management program, which I think we talk about here briefly. So I've hired this money manager. She's going to be working. It's normally would be a $900 value. It's part of your benefit to membership. I think we added some information about it here, but I can't remember for sure if we did or not. But you wouldn't necessarily know about that, but I'm telling you about. Oh, here we go. It's called Profit Accelerator. It's the last Friday in January is when we start. It's a 4-part series. The first 3 are free. You don't have to attend all of them. You can only attend one. They'll be recorded. But it's really helping you understand how you think about money. And growth mentor Nafisa Shirin is going to be doing that, and they're going to be 3 hours. And we're really excited to bring that to our members, because it's really important. And I think as new small business owners, new entrepreneurs, knowing your value, which Fabi's done such a good job of talking about, is so important, because you want to be profitable. I mean, it could be a hobby, but most people aren't doing this as a hobby. And we really are looking to really support the professional community. So there you go. That's just a quick update of, and you feel free to email at any point. If you're not getting if you still have more questions, you can email us at support@thephotomanagers.com. There is also a webinar on there where I talk about, what does it mean to be a member, and I interview different members and things like that. But Fabi, you did great today. I just, I was so impressed when I did my certification interview. Again, that willingness to get the answers is just a real, it's something that it made me real when she told that story. And I've kind of done that. I built this business the same way. I mean, I didn't start, I always say I didn't wake up one morning and say, today I think I'll create an association called the Photo Manager. I mean, it's an amazing story, but it was the same idea, like this idea, every time I hit a roadblock, I'd be like, well, I can figure out the answer to that. And if you have that kind of mindset, you can be very successful. And there's days when it's hard, right? And you want to cry or whatever, but it's meaningful work.
There's days I did cry,
Yeah.
but I recovered.
And there's a community that will support you. So you are not alone. A lot of members I know showed up on this call today just to support Fabi, because they've known her. If you come to our conferences, you're on our Facebook page. We do a lot of ways that we interact. We've managed to stay connected with each other through the pandemic because of, Zoom and doing all these different kind of things. So so thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. You're an inspiration, and your kids did a good job. They didn't come through the door.
They did.
And thank you, everybody that was watching and joining us. And we really appreciate your time. We do this every month. So next month, I think it's Shelley Murray, I'm not positive, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, completely different story. She'll tell you a whole different story than what Fabi will, which makes you realize the diversity of the business that these folks run. So thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.